First of all, just a few more sentences on the Taliban. For many years, I believe that analysts, whether Afghan or international, underestimated the Taliban. I would be quite happy to sort of run out what the Taliban project is they're doing. They have a vision for transforming Afghan society. They have, I would, it's a highly instrumentalist use of Islam, thinking back to what Zia also said. They have mobilized a small part of Afghan society, but still a part of Afghan society to deliver that. They're sort of running out a vanguard state. And there is no foreign advisor telling them they have to do this. There's nobody pulling the strings. This is an Afghan movement that has history, that has political culture, which actually can look, when the Taliban sort of try to explain where they've come from, they can name to you, literally hundreds of figures in Afghan history who played a role. Well, first, of course, they assert that their people were involved in the anti-Soviet jihad as well. That they can list to you their people who were involved in sort of various uprisings against the monarchy. How their figures were involved in the fight against the British during the three Anglo-Afghan wars. Anyway. They have history, they have a place in Afghan society, they have a mission that they're trying to do. But of course, many people try to say, oh, they're just proxies of Pakistan. Essentially, there's somebody pulling the strings. Madrasa students couldn't pull this off. Well, I'm afraid, gradually we have to accept, yes, they have. They are an effective Afghan movement. So when it comes to this issue around the diaspora, the rest of Afghan society, on one level, that Afghan society it's not mobilized. That there's been this sense, the sense was created during, and it grew up during the Republic, that even they're taking the easily accessible indicators of democratic mobilization, participation in the electoral process. It's a straight line going downwards from the initial exercises in 2004 right to the final presidential election. People being either physically unable or unwilling to participate in a democratic process, and reaching a situation where Afghans essentially concluding that there's nothing we can do. When it comes to the issue of the Afghan diaspora, I think that the question is almost the wrong question when they say, oh, our voices are not being heard in making Afghan policy. No, the question is, which Afghan movement are you a part of, which is articulating your views? That's the issue, and that's what Taliban have exploited. Currently, Afghan society is not mobilized. Most of the complaints that we hear are complaints why the European Union, or why His Majesty's government in Britain or whatever, they don't listen to the Afghans. The UN, oh, they don't invite us to the meetings. That's, for me, fundamentally irrelevant. Afghanistan is now not a high priority for the international community. However, there is a deeply unpopular, and I would say ultimately unsustainable regime pursuing its project in Afghanistan, contrary to the political aspirations of the majority of Afghans, contrary to Afghan culture, and they will continue to do that successfully until two things happen. That there is a mobilization, not a mobilization to influence the policies of international actors, the mobilization of movement, or essentially of a freedom movement. When there is an effective effective Afghan freedom movement that people in the diaspora find ways of participating in, and inside Afghanistan find ways of participating in, which, despite all the talk about Taliban authoritarianism, there are always ways to mobilize. And of course, that we know that doing it in complete isolation is difficult. When the conditions in the region are more propitious, for example, when Pakistan or other states decide that the Taliban pose such a threat that they will be generally supportive of those Afghans mobilizing against them, then we will see things change. But as long as Afghan society is demobilized, the Taliban will continue to push through with their project.